Let's talk about Peter Mandelson. What was it, 3 weeks ago? Well, was it longer? 3 weeks ago. He had to, he was sacked as our ambassador to Washington, our man in America. This was a job that the Prime Minister had deemed he was capable of doing. But soon emails emerged from him, that man Jeffrey Epstein again, in which Mandelson's relationship with this convicted paedophile after he was convicted proved to be untenable. Talking about him being his best friend, and we must all help you in your hour of need, and you know, we'll try and work out a strategy to get you off the hook, that kind of thing. So he had to go. He actually refused to resign and was furious when Starmer said, well, in that case, you are sacked. Well, he's back in Britain now. He was photographed at the weekend in the West Country. And it turns out he's still earning his £174,000 a year Foreign Office salary. He's still getting his six-figure salary for a job he was sacked from. Turns out that that's because he was sacked, and therefore there's a dispute on how much his contract, how much of his contract he should be compensated for. That is a 4-year contract. So how much are we going to have to pay this guy? I don't think we should give him any compensation at all. You know, he proved to have done something very, very unwise, something that he should never have done should he want to hold down the job of ambassador to Washington, Britain's ambassador to Washington, our top diplomatic role. There is no higher diplomatic role than ambassador to Washington. It's the most important diplomacy role in all of Britain. Obviously, our relationship with our biggest and closest ally is crucial. This guy turned out he'd been living his life in a way that made that unsustainable. So somewhere or other, apparently we still have to compensate this guy for having the terrible judgment to maintain his close friendship with the convicted paedophile. I don't see why we have to compensate him, but apparently we do. But here he is, back in Britain, still on his ambassadorial salary, £174,000 a year. Nice lack of work if you can get it, isn't it? Let's talk to political strategist Pete Barnes. Hi, Pete. This is just typical of Westminster, isn't it? You know, this kind of, what the hell, you know, it's just a few quid here, a few quid there. This is our money. This is taxpayers' money. We ought to constitutionally do something about this. The ability of politicians who fall from grace to still have their snouts in the trough, to still be taking taxpayers' money. Don't you think it is an ongoing scandal that this guy, Peter Mandelson, sacked from his important role, brought the country into disrepute, shamed this nation, is still getting his six-figure salary, 174 grand a year, for a job he no longer does? What is that all about?
Well, you know, who will rid us of this troublesome ambassador seems to be the phrase around Westminster at the moment, that's for certain. But this is the difference. Allow me to be the translator of Westminster to normal English. Dismissed is not the same as withdrawn. So basically, he hasn't technically been fired. Now, politically, he definitely has. But in terms of the administration, he hasn't, because he is technically a servant of the crown. So for that, you need certain kind of procedures to follow and certain steps, and more importantly, legal justification. This is what's not there at the moment, and it's deeply concerning that the Foreign Office is hiding behind HR matters as a kind of cover-all because they don't have actual grounds to fire him. This is the problem, is that whilst his friendship is, I think, morally repugnant, there is not really a classification for him not to have the job, which but yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, you say that, Pete, but what we're talking about, I've just looked up, by the way, it's September the 11th he got fired.
Yeah,
so we're talking about well over a month. So he's still drawing this handsome amount of money. You say that there's no real technical reason to fire him. Couldn't you just say, brought the country into disrepute, therefore you breached your contract?
Well, unfortunately, that sets a precedent. If you're doing that, we'd have no ambassadors and no civil servants and no politicians. It would bring in the country into disrepute.
This is the kind of nonsense up with which the people of this country won't be prepared to put for much longer. This is nonsense. This is nonsense. The guy got sacked because he had a very inappropriate friendship with a convicted paedophile, sent him all sorts of lovey-dovey messages. He's in the same trouble over Jeffrey Epstein as the Duke of, or the former Duke of York, Prince Andrew is. You know, you say they don't. I think they do have a technical. It's a question of wanting to sack him, and they should say you breached your contract, you brought the country into disrepute, you're out, go, you're not getting any money, shouldn't they?
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree, and I think you're 100% right. That, you know, it's without doubt that the guy had to be fired. I don't think he should have got the job in the first place.
Yeah, well, there is that. Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah.
I know. The guy in the pub at the end of my road could have told you after 12 pints, don't hire Peter Mandelson. You know, this was bound to happen, but here we are. But this is the problem. It sets a precedent. And like you said, it is the lack of moral conviction I find deeply concerning from not only the civil service, who, you know, would oversee this, but the Prime Minister himself, who can intervene. Let's not forget, he is the Prime Minister. And, you know, he could actually force us along. They're hiding behind bureaucracy. They're hiding behind the systems and all the definitions and all this wordplay to protect themselves. And that it's not just to protect them now, it's to protect themselves in the future. This is the problem when we talk about the blob and Westminster working against the people. It is this type of thing that needs to be cut out and cut out quickly.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, the Westminster cesspit, you know, it's almost like nothing succeeds like scandal, like, you know, Angela Rayner, you know, who basically tried to dodge paying stamp duty tax, then tried to lie her way out of it. Absolutely gone in disgrace. She had to step down as Deputy Prime Minister and Housing Secretary. And the next thing we learned couple of weeks later, 2-3 weeks later, is, oh, she's still got her ministerial BMW because it's a security issue. In other words, doesn't matter what scandal you get into in Westminster, you keep your money, you keep your perks, you don't pay the price. That's got to finish. That's got to end, hasn't it?
Yes, and it's why I think, when we were talking on Friday about Prince Andrew, that we actually have this Act of Parliament, that we actually use these moments as lines in the sand now, and we say no more. We actually follow through and hold people accountable for just being terrible people and awful for the British nation and its people. Yet again, the master of the dark arts, his spell is yet lingering around with us, and the taxpayer is footing the bill. It is absolutely ridiculous, and this is even a thing. But it has become a thing because the Westminster blob is allowed to protect itself. It's gone unchecked for too long, and too many people look the other way and have just said, well, that's just how it is. It's not how it is, and it doesn't have to be like this. It is ridiculous. But I can't stress the diplomatic chaos this has caused is significant. Washington is furious about the kind of the administrative chaos and all the rest of it. I mean, it makes Britain look even more foolish than we already are under Starmer.
Absolutely. I mean, he shouldn't have got the job in the first place. No. And now it's really unravelling. But let me ask the audience, should this guy still be getting his £174,000 a year salary for being our ambassador to Washington, a job that he was sacked from on September the 11th? Should he still be drawing his money, his wages, do you think? It's been a hell of a eventful week on the royal scene, hasn't it, on the royal front? So let's go straight over to Los Angeles and talk to our resident royal guru, our resident expert, the host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered, Kinsey Schofield. Hi, Kins.
Kev, I had the best weekend of not looking at any Prince Andrew headlines. I chose to spend it with my nephew and not see anything, and then yesterday I got home, perused everything, and thought, this is pretty bad. This is pretty bad.
It's pretty bad. It really is. We tried to get you on Friday. I know that you always have Fridays off. But I said, see if Kinsey will break off her weekend, see if she can come on. But I don't think we managed to make contact. But it actually broke on Friday just as I was going on air, 7 o'clock Friday night. And frankly, all hell broke loose. It occurs to me, Kinsey, because usually we spend most of our time talking about Harry and Meghan. There's a thread here, right? I think you and I have discussed this before. If you're born into the royal family, it is the British royal family, it is an extremely unusual card to be played in the game of life. It's a very unusual lot to have to learn to deal with. Not that easy, I would suggest. And I would also suggest you need a certain intellect, a certain brain power to work out how to behave with the status that has been bequeathed to you, how to behave with a certain humility, with a certain dignity. Otherwise, it can go badly wrong. Now, who are the thickest two members, the dumbest two members of the British royal family? Well, there's no competition. It is Prince Harry and Prince Andrew, both of whom I think have demonstrated that they cannot get their heads around the decent form of behaviour that they should be following. Now, I'm in no way, of course, linking Harry with the sort of nefarious awfulness that Prince Andrew's been involved in. But
I think it's completely fair to say that Harry and Meghan are on the same trajectory. If you look at some of the associations that Harry and Meghan have, we discussed this last week. You will be judged by the company that you keep. So when Lily's godfather is named Tyler Perry, who's accused of sexual harassment and sexual assault, it will negatively affect you. It will negatively affect Lily. Whitney Hurd from Bumble, who Meghan calls one of her best friends, was one of the first guests on Confessions of a Female Founder, accused of racism, admitted to using the N-word, admitted to perpetuating homophobia around the office to keep up with some of the guys. There is a long list of people that Ellen DeGeneres accused of bullying. There is a long list of associations that have soured with the public when it comes to Harry and Meghan. And I do think that you are who you associate with, and Harry and Meghan have to be very careful going forward of who they allow within their circle, because it will reflect negatively on the British royal family.
Well, I think that I take your point there, Kinsey, but the parallel that we can definitely draw between disgraced Prince Andrew, for he is fully in disgrace and shame now. Frankly, these denials, I have never met this woman, Virginia Giuffre, no one believes him. No one believes him for a second. If it was true he'd never met her, if it was true that he hadn't, as she claims, sexually abused her on 3 different continents, if his denials were true, why is he stepping down? Why is he giving up his titles? Why did he give her £12 million or $15 million not to go to civil court in New York? So all of those questions just basically lead one to conclude that we know he's a liar. He lied about cutting off contact from Jeffrey Epstein. Why should we believe him on these other denials? That notwithstanding, what I'm trying to say is there is a parallel between the path in life that Prince Andrew and Fergie, his former wife, took, and the path that Harry seems to be taking. And that is this, that like Harry, Andrew and Fergie used their royal status to line their own pockets, to hook up with rich people to make money. Now, that's what Harry has gone off to do in America. He's gone off to use his royal status to make lots of money for himself. I don't think it's going well, but that's what he's trying to do. So there is this parallel, and if you have this combination of a guy who's famously not too bright, Prince Harry and Prince Andrew, just trying to cash in on their royal status, which they don't have the intellect to really understand, just to try to use their royal status for venal purposes to make money for themselves. It is a toxic cocktail, and that's why Andrew is in so much trouble, and that's why, you know, Harry has been in so much trouble, and I think will continue to be in a lot of trouble, because this is no way for a royal to behave. It's no way for a royal to behave. Say, I am the Duke of Sussex, I'm the King's son, give me money. That is no way.
Give me money, give me royal protection. Also, just, you know, when you talk about Fergie, Meghan Markle, everything Meghan Markle has done echoes Sarah Ferguson. Children's books. Sarah Ferguson writes children's books. There's Meghan Markle's The Bench. Oprah Winfrey. Fergie did several sit-downs with Oprah Winfrey, as well as doing a Oprah Winfrey produced reality show. Now Harry and Meghan turned to Netflix for their reality show, but Fergie also did a reality show. Cooking in the kitchen, trying to go that lifestyle route. Fergie did that as well. You know, we saw her on QVC selling blenders at 3 a.m. That's something that we've seen similar with Meghan Markle trying to shill her as ever products across Netflix. So, I mean, there are multiple comparisons and ways that you can look at what Meghan Markle has done since stepping back as a member of the royal family that mirror Fergie's, and that's not the right way to go. I mean, we've seen how messy that's turned out to be for both of them. I'd say that in the last few weeks, that Fergie email, it might be what started the avalanche here. Supreme friend Jeffrey Epstein, you know, now to be fair, her camp says she just wrote him this groveling apology email because he was threatening her family. We'll pretend that we're confident in that. However, she still wrote Jeffrey Epstein after telling the media that she was distancing herself from him and called him a supreme friend and was very complimentary towards him.
Exactly right. And so, as I say, I'm not trying to say that Andrew and Harry are leading similar or ever led similar lives, but the path they both chose to line their own pockets using their royal status has led to a lot of trouble for Harry, and it's led to obviously terminal trouble for Prince Andrew. Before we get back to Harry and Meghan, Meghan's been out and about, by the way, going to a vegan dinner in Los Angeles. Last time I saw her, she had her hand up a chicken's backside. That's not very vegan, is it? We'll talk about that in just a second, but can I get your assessment of just how damaging to the royal family you think this Andrew episode has been, or continues to be, because of course Virginia Giuffre's post-mortem biography, her autobiography, comes out tomorrow. By all accounts, it's full of incredibly damaging allegations against Prince Andrew, because we can still call him that. He's lost all his other titles. And the royal family are bracing themselves for more and more embarrassment. We also have the Epstein files. There are said to be hundreds of emails in the Epstein files, which will heap even more humiliation on Andrew and by extension the royal family. How damaging has this all been, Kinsey?
Well, look, I think if you're a monarchist, you wrote Prince Andrew off a long time ago, and you are done with him. You've checked out. You're disgusted with him. And these new, I feel like they hurt the royal family when it comes to general popularity for people that are not necessarily engaged regularly. But if you are a regular royal watcher, you know, you were done with Prince Andrew a long time ago, and his actions are not a reflection to you on King Charles or Prince William. But I think in the overall scheme of things, yes, it will hurt the royal family's popularity in a random YouGov poll coming up. But I think that it's actually given Prince William a little bit of credibility, because these stories that are circulating around the States are that he's prepared to really develop a backbone here. I mean, I shouldn't say develop. I think he's got a great backbone. But the stories that are circulating around the States are that Prince William will strip not only Prince Andrew of his HRH and princely title when he ascends to the throne, because legally, Prince Andrew still has these.
He still has the title, yeah.
As the saint that he is, he's voluntarily decided to let them go.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but they're also saying that Prince William will strip Meghan and Harry and their children of dukedoms, their HRH, that he was unhappy that Meghan continued to use her HRH despite being ordered not to do so by the late Queen Elizabeth. We saw that on that gift basket for Jamie Kern-Lima. So I think that this story has almost propelled Prince William into an admirable leadership role. Yeah. Not to say he wasn't already in one, but I think we're looking at him seeing, that he's courageous, he's brave, and he's willing to do some things that perhaps his father just isn't, because his father is ill. He's waited all of his life for this job, and he just wants to get on with the job.
Sure. There's a lot of calls over here, and I agree with them, for the King now to go the whole hog. And we need to pass an act of Parliament. It has to go through our governmental system. We need to pass an act to officially take these titles. He's got 3. He's also the Earl of Inverness, and he's something called Baron Kiliari or something in Northern Ireland as well. So Baron Kililia, Barry Kililia, Barony Kililia. So there are moves to go through Parliament and take these titles away from him officially. The King is saying, oh, well, I don't want to bother Parliament with this. I think he's wrong. I think this is about, I think the people want to see it, and I think it's about accountability. If this goes through Parliament, I don't think it'll take up too much time. Nobody's going to bother debating it. It'll just get passed. So I think he's wrong about, the Parliament's too busy. They can do this in a flash. They can do this very quickly. But I think it's about sending a message, not only to the royal family, but to the British people. Accountability. If you behave appallingly, you pay the price. That's what we need to see with Andrew. So I, for one, hope that this Act of Parliament does go through and we do officially take these titles away from him once and for all. And I think you're right, Kinsey. I think when William would do it if he was in control now, if he was the King now, but he's not. But when he is the King, I think you're right, he will take Harry's titles away as well. And I think the people want to see it. We don't want to see members of the royal family being able to do exactly what they want and still retain these exalted titles that are supposed to be positions of respect.
Well, also with Harry and Meghan, they're lying through their teeth. And in my opinion, allegedly, I'll say that for legal. But when Meghan Markle sits on the Fortune stage, most powerful women, most powerful of what? The chicken coop? Like, what are you most powerful of? You've not had, in the last 3 weeks, we've seen her at Paris Fashion Week. We've seen her accept a Humanitarian of the Year award. And we've seen her sitting in front of a group full of entrepreneurs talking about how she is one of the most powerful women in the business space. Those are 3 different categories where I would argue till my last breath that Meghan Markle has not proven herself in. Fashion, humanitarianism. I mean, Meghan just takes a break. She dips out. We don't hear from her for years or months, and then she comes back with a Humanitarian of the Year award. And when it comes to being an entrepreneur, show us some numbers to prove that you've sold anything from as ever. We have no proof whatsoever that you're moving any sort of inventory. Oh, you were the wine sponsor at a recent vegan event. It's because you have plenty of product, girlfriend. Hasn't said sold out on as ever when it comes to any of your booze lately. So I think that what really frustrates people about watching Harry and Meghan use the titles, if it was just Harry showing up and talking to sick kids, we would have no problem with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex title. But it's Meghan sitting on a stage and, in my personal opinion, lying through her teeth about her success, lying about what she's capable of doing, lying about being a philanthropist. That's what really irritates people about watching, and like you said, monetizing those titles. People resent that.
Yeah, it's not what royalty's for. It's not what British royalty's for. It isn't to make money off the back of. And both Harry and Andy, well, Harry continues to seek to do it. Quite how Andrew will carry on is a moot point because we may never hear from him again. And if we don't ever hear from him again, it won't be a moment too soon. As I say, that book comes out. It's called Nobody's Girl. It's Virginia Giuffre's book. She, of course, sadly took her own life a few months back, 41 years old. Had been exploited by powerful men her whole life, including, she says, Prince Andrew, on 3 different continents. Andrew says he's never met her. There's a picture of him with his arm around her. So the guy's just a liar. It's just a liar, and he deserves his fate. Let's talk a little bit about Meghan. She is now 2 weeks into this sort of publicity blitz. She went to Paris for the Paris Fashion Week. Nobody invited her. She invited herself. She went to New York to pick up a humanitarian award of the year. No one knows what that was for or why she picked it up, but she likes all that sort of thing. Harry got one too, which is even more farcical. And now, over the weekend, Kinsey, she popped up at a glitzy vegan banquet in Los Angeles. This was at the home of designer Kelly Wurstler. Celebrity chef Camilla Marcus produced an entirely plant-based menu for a series of luminaries, including Meghan. And this plant-based menu was washed down with Meghan's as ever wine. What a treat for everyone.
Hope you like gasoline.
Yeah. Yeah. What a treat for them all that they got some as ever wine. I mean, you got to say, not many people get to actually get their as ever wine, so in that respect they were lucky.
Well, that is the one thing that's not selling out. So if you really want it, guys, it's there for the taking. She also was at a charity event for one of her friends. It was a tennis event. I mean, there has been a strong shift in strategy, and somebody has said, you know what, let's pretend oversaturation doesn't exist, and let's just throw you absolutely everywhere, and let's, we'll deal with the consequences later. But I thought that there was a really interesting piece in, I think it was the Daily Mail, about how there's no method to the madness. And somebody that, according to the Daily Mail, is close to them, said that her PR team are just putting her out there in a hopeful way without a plan. They aren't being discerning and protecting her from herself, said the source. It seems that every media opportunity is a good one, and they called it insane, that was their thought process, that she's just everywhere right now. They said there's no strategy here. It is thoughtless and directionless. One day she's in Paris, positioning herself in the fashion world. The next, she's in Washington at Fortune magazine and wants to be regarded as a female founder, but she's got nothing to launch, nothing to announce, and nothing to say. It's a mess. They said that they felt like the Sussexes were spiraling and throwing spaghetti at a wall to see what sticks. But I told you last week, I told you on Tuesday of last week, I think it's makeup that's coming. And Charlotte Griffin's in the
Mail on Sunday.
Mail, yeah. obviously watching our program, because she's exclusively announced that Meghan makeup could be next on the horizon. Yeah,
Charlotte seems to write a lot of stories that are very pro Meghan.
Oh yeah.
That headline, gee, I wonder where she gets the stories from. But that headline in the Mail on Sunday, now Meghan plans to be a billionaire on the makeup scene. Hang on a second, hang on. So this is the latest endeavour that's going to make her $1 billion. Every single time, going to be a billionaire. She's going to be a billionaire influencer. She'll be charging $1 million for every single post. Whatever happened to that? She's going to make $1 billion making films and TV shows for Netflix. What happened to that? She's going to make a fortune, $1 billion for American Riviera Orchard. What happened to that? She's going to make $1 billion from As Ever. What happened to that? So when I see a headline saying, now Meghan's going to make $1 billion as a makeup tycoon, I think, really? I doubt it. Don't you?
I do doubt it. I mean, when you think of some of the biggest celebrity makeup brands today, Hailey Bieber, Selena Gomez, what is Rihanna's? Rihanna has Fenty Beauty. These are women that, okay, with Hailey Bieber, yes, the Bieber last name helps her. But as Hailey Baldwin, she was a supermodel before she married her husband. And Hailey Bieber, in my opinion, came up with that brilliant phone case where your lip gloss, her lip gloss, attaches to the back, and everyone bought that phone case. I saw everyone in LA with that phone case. That was a unique, very unique product that we hadn't seen before.
I got one of those. So it's brilliant.
I know you do. I know you got 3 or 4 of them.
It really improved my looks.
Exactly.
If that's possible.
But you know, Selena Gomez, Rihanna, Gwen Stefani, these are all people that have really impressive resumes without the person that they married. Without the person she married, Meghan Markle is a nobody that was being written off Suits and was, you know, on the way to having to play a minivan mom in whatever she could secure acting wise, because she's in her 40s now. Meghan Markle, you know, Suits wasn't the phenomenon then that it became after the plague, when no one had anything else to do but to sit back and rewatch episodes of a show that no longer existed. So, I mean, Meg, you've said it 1,000 times, to be an influencer, to sell things, people have to like you. And
That is the problem.
Yeah, how many times does Meghan Markle have to? I mean, she says it she awkwardly laughs during the Fortune interview and talks about how she has a weird relationship with social media. Girl, it's not social media. It's just a fact. Not a lot of people like you. They just utilize social media to tell you. I think that she has a real problem with likability, and it doesn't matter what she launches where. And actually, maybe that's wrong. There are places all over the world that can tolerate her, but it's not in the United States. It's not in the UK. And that's where she's trying to monetize her status to the British royal family. Absolutely.
Now, at this dinner over the weekend in LA, it was actually hosted by the British-born CEO of the fashion brand Good American, Emma Grede. And here's the deal. As I say, they had a plant-based menu because it was a vegan dinner. I don't know what Meghan's doing there. I mean,
remember, this is the same girl that Meghan did an interview with, remember?
Well, but I mean, Meghan seems to be a voracious meat eater, so I'm not quite sure what she's doing there. But anyway, this is what was interesting. It was all this plant-based meal, 3 courses, was washed down by, as ever, wine. Emma Grede had red wine. As ever, doesn't do red wine. So what do you make of that? She didn't want the Sauvignon Blanc or the Meghan Rosé, obviously.
Well, I don't trust Emma at this point. Emma sat down and did that interview with Meghan Markle for her podcast and just kissed up and down her backside, talking about how cute the baby mama video is. One of the lowest points, I think, if we look at a calendar in 2025 for Meghan Markle. Her twerking hospital video, I'd say it ranks just above the Vanity Fair American Hustlers article for lowest points in 2025. But also, Emma has the audacity to be an ambassador for the King's Trust. You know, pick a side. You can't elevate and continuously prop up Meghan, America's favorite grifter, but also go and kiss the butt of the king. Pick a side. If I were the King's Trust, I'd say, you know, we're concerned about your, you know, where your, you know, allegiances are.
Indeed. What about Harry? What the hell is he up to? I mean, he'll be quite enjoying his Uncle Andrew's fate, because he hates Andrew, and so does William. So they'll both be quite enjoying it. But what actually is Harry doing, if anything at all?
You know, I still am under the impression that he would love to get back in with his father and the royal family, because he realizes that he's very limited when it comes to talent and ability. What's he doing right now? I bet you he's petrified of losing his titles, because he realizes that Prince William got his way almost when Andrew voluntarily gave up his titles. I think Prince William would have loved for him to be formally stripped of his titles. And you know what? Harry, you're next. You are next. You do not behave like a royal. Your wife certainly does not behave like a royal. And your actions still reflect on the British royal family because you refuse to shake off those titles. So I think that Harry's likely pretty nervous about what could come next with Prince William.
So how do you think it'll go down with Meghan on the day that she's told, well, you can no longer call yourself the Duchess of Sussex because your husband isn't the Duke of Sussex? How do you think that?
And how does that even make sense for her Meghan Sussex name now? Yeah. You're Meghan Mountbatten Windsor. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you're Meghan Mountbatten Windsor. You're not Meghan Sussex. How will it go down? I don't know. I mean, maybe I have to send you this. I'm not going to say it on air, but there is a tabloid story that's happening over here about Harry and a certain prescription medication for his hair, and one of the fallouts from it. Okay, like
the fallouts. Is his hair falling out?
Well, his hair
hasn't got much left to fall out, has he?
His hair is falling out, but what happens when he takes the pill is.
All right.
It's disappointing.
I think I know what this story's going to be. I know what that story is. I know about that drug, and not personally, I should say. One thing, the only thing.
Thank you for clarifying.
The only talent I've got is not losing my hair. Apart from that,
maybe he's Googling. Maybe he's trying to find solutions in that arena. I don't know.
Kinsey, send me that story. I want to read it. Well, welcome to the studio again, John Wedger, former copper, whistleblower with the Metropolitan Police. You're not hamstrung by being a copper anymore, so you can say what you like, and you did last time as well. But after you told me that Sadiq Khan's claims that there was no rape gang problem in London were basically a crock of crap. Well, it turns out the Daily Express has teamed up with the My London website. They've done an investigation which has established that young girls are being raped in hotels by men, mainly of Pakistani origin, Muslim men of Pakistani origin. So the same syndrome we've seen all over the country. So they're saying that Mayor Khan either literally does not know the truth, or he's absolutely flat out lying. I know what some of his political opponents believe, but let's give him the credit for, give him the sort of benefit of the doubt. Let's just say he doesn't know about it. But reiterate for us, John, what it is that Sadiq Khan needs to know that is going on in the capital city here.
Well, it's shameful that it takes the Daily Express to bring to the front something that really is very much in the public interest. And again, the age groups, I did read the report, 17 down to 12 years old. And this is going on. And it just goes to show when I was sort of removed from that post in the early 2000s, nothing's changed. The only thing that's changed seems to be the ethnicity of those doing it. It's the same algorithm all the time. And, to put the money where my mouth is, after I appeared on your show a couple of weeks ago, I was approached by a production company that make documentaries, and they were horrified and outraged by my claims. And they said, is this really going on? So I said, well, come with me and let's prove it.
Yeah.
We went out on the streets of London. We went to rough areas, which were what they call known red light areas. So the police know about these areas. Within 90 minutes, we found a girl there. She'd been on the street from the age of 14. She was actually being sort of exploited, pimped out by her mother. So, but even more horrific. But she'd been on the streets. She said at no point had the police ever intervened or anyone come out to help her. She then gave us information of 3 other girls. One of them was a young Somali girl, and she said to us, this girl is extremely young. We went further down the road to look for her. We met up with another street worker who said, yeah, this girl, you've just missed her. She's just gone, and she's very, very young. So within 90 minutes, we'd found one girl that although she was out the age group now, but she had been on there from the age of 14, and 3 girls, one being extremely young, all young girls, all sort of shouldn't be there at all, on the street. So that's the street scene, which is a very dangerous and precarious scene. And we've not yet explored, like I mentioned last time, the children's homes, which is the main areas that are targeted.
Yeah, well, tell us about that again, because you were telling us that what you tried to alert the police to and the authorities to was the fact that kids were being almost pimped out, or at least let go by children's homes, orphanages, and these poor kids were picked up by guys in, you know, flash cars and then taken to hotels, to rooms above shops and things like that, and serially basically plied with drugs, drink and raped.
Now, what I did was I got a list of the children's home for one London borough, and I think there's in the late 20s in respect to London boroughs. One I picked on was Haringey. There was 26 kids' homes. I rang them up and I just boldly asked, how many children have you got? One of the first ones I rang, they had 6 children, and I said, how many children do you lose at the weekend to this criminality? 5. 5 out of the 6. It's just absolutely appalling. Young girls, but what makes it worse, Kevin, these are children that are known to the authorities. They are regular missing persons. At no point is anyone debriefing them, and the social services really went for me because they had to put in emergency care plans, so it was a big pain in the backside for them to do that.
Sorry about that. Sorry they had to do their job. So what we're talking about here in London is that it seems that exactly the same syndrome that happened in the north is happening here, that these kids are being exploited, they're being raped, they're being plied with drink and drugs, and the authorities, including allegedly the London mayor, are acting like it's not happening and turning their backs.
Well, if we look at the information getting to the mayor, I reported this to the senior officer for the Metropolitan Police Vice Unit, and he told me, if you mention a word of this, you will lose your home, your job and your children. Shut your effing mouth. Now, also what we got to look at is if they want to report this. Now, one of the key dates in the calendar for people reporting historic child abuse crimes is New Year's Day. And a lot of people, when you speak to them on historic cases, they say, I've got, you know, new start for the year, I'm going to report my offenders. They would go to a police station where they knew that there would be an officer who could then get, usually a female officer that's specially trained in sexual offences down, take them into a side room where, you know, they've got anonymity and discretion to report these claims. They've now shut down all the front offices. They've gone. And also in my day, when I was a young budding detective, if we got crimes allocated to us, it was very difficult to get a crime written off as no further action. An officer contacted me who works for many years on the police's crime reporting desk. He's told me that they are encouraged to write off and no further action 80% of reported crimes. 80%.
It doesn't surprise me somehow. Listen, this is Sadiq Khan not so long ago being quizzed about grooming gangs at the London Assembly.
These have obviously been found in many, many other cities and towns around the country, but there hasn't been much of many prosecutions happened in London. But, you know, obviously, as the police commissioner for Northumberland said, this is happening anywhere, and the only reason why it's not being found is that people aren't looking. Are you looking in London for grooming gangs in London in order to prosecute people? Because if it's going on in cities like Oxford and Bristol and Peterborough and Aylesbury, smaller places, it's surely going on in London as well on a large scale.
Can I just be clear, Chair? Is the inference that because of my faith or my ethnic origin, I'm not seeking to follow these crimes?
No, I'm asking you because you're the Police and Crime Commissioner.
Assembly Member Curtin, I think you're pretty much drifting now onto drifting off the subject itself. So can I just ask you to stick to the topic and ask a relevant question, please?
Well, Chair, I mean, I was originally asking about Black Lives Matter, and then the Mayor started talking about slavery, and the questioning has developed.
Yeah, but you're still going off the tangent now, so can you please be cautious about that and not ask...
Okay, well, Chair, if you want to disallow my question, that's your prerogative.
Well, this seems to be the pattern of events surrounding this ongoing scandal. Let's get this straight. The rape gang scandal is not over. It's happening all over the country, and now We have reason to believe, partly because of John, but partly because of a recent investigation by the Daily Express and My London, the website, that it's going on badly here in London. Now, Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, said, "It is shameful that the Mayor of London is claiming to have no indication that grooming gangs are operating in London, despite personally responding to reports containing evidence of victims abused by grooming gangs in the city. It is clear Sadiq Khan is facilitating a cover-up." Reform UK MP Lee Anderson said the Mayor had serious questions to answer. He added, "There is real, credible evidence that grooming gangs exist in London, and for the Mayor to have potentially turned a blind eye is utterly shameful." Lee Anderson carried on by saying that the UK could not go on making the same catastrophic errors we saw in Rochdale, Rotherham and all over the country. He demanded that victims receive proper justice. So it does look as if, I mean, Sadiq Khan will no doubt deny this, but it looks as if there's a very real possibility that what we saw in towns like Rotherham and Rochdale is going on down here in London.
Well, we proved it the other night. So we went out within 90 minutes. We had the evidence of young kids under the age of 16 actively out on the streets engaged in sex work, and all the health hazards that you know, and the risks to life that they're exposed to. And when we asked the street workers out there, do the police come along? They said, no, we've never seen police, not for years. So you're not getting, like I mentioned last time, you need proactive policing for this issue. It's hidden, it's covert. It doesn't present itself. You need to go out there and do it, and it's easy to do. And I took out the film crew that got in touch with your station last week. I took them out, and within 90 minutes, I proved myself right. Within 90 minutes.
Well, there you go, folks. This is John Wedger, former copper, who whistle blew on this many years ago. He says it's still going on. The Express and the My London website have, in their view, established beyond all doubt that it's still going on. We have a mayor who keeps saying he doesn't recognise that this is going on. Is this happening again in London? That we got the authorities deliberately turning a blind eye? You saw Sadiq Khan there saying, "You're asking me this because of my Muslim faith." Just trying to play the race card. No, no, no. I think that councillor was asking you, Sadiq, because he's worried about the fate of vulnerable young girls on the street of the capital city, London, the one that you're supposed to be the mayor of. We've got to do something, haven't we, John?
Can I mention something?
Yeah, please.
If he's bringing ethnicity into this, from my experience, those men that are having sex with these young girls, that makes them paedophiles.
Yes.
And paedophiles is what they call trisexual. They don't care what colour a kid is, and they don't sometimes care what gender the kid is.
Yeah.
So if these are Asian men that are doing it, there's every chance they'll be doing it to kids within their own ethnicity. So if you ignore it, saying that this ethnic group are doing it, you're actually failing the child victims of your own ethnic group.
So you're saying that right now you're absolutely, utterly convinced, and the Express and My London would tend to confirm this, that children, young girls, vulnerable girls,
yeah,
some of them underage, as we speak, are being sexually exploited by rape gangs.
And I proved it a couple of days ago on the street.
That is shocking, isn't it, folks? Well, let's talk first of all, in about an hour or so, or 50 minutes or so now, we're going to talk to Ellie Reynolds, a very brave young woman. She was a victim of the rape gang scandal up in Barrow-in-Furness, and she's one of the 3 girls from the victims panel who have sensationally resigned today, saying it's the same old story. No one's listening to them, they're being silenced, and Ellie is particularly upset about the clear attempts by the government to widen the remit of this long-delayed public inquiry, if we ever get it. Don't forget, Keir Starmer was shamed into announcing this inquiry back in June after the Casey report, the Casey dossier, gave him no other choice. Labour didn't want this inquiry, but he said, I have no choice but to have this inquiry now. And ever since then, Ellie and the other girls, but Ellie was telling me earlier, and she'll tell this story later, that, you know, she wants to talk about her own ordeal. And she says, look, the most important thing to remember about these rape gangs is they were comprised of mainly Muslim men of Pakistani origin, and they mainly preyed on young white girls like her, vulnerable young white girls. In fact, Ellie wasn't that vulnerable. She came from a happy home, but she was skillfully groomed and lured into this terrible ordeal that went on for a couple of years for her. But what is clear to her is that the government, in convening this inquiry, if they ever do, want to avoid pointing the finger at Muslim men. Once again, it's this government wants to keep the Islamic community happy so that it can get the Muslim vote at the next election. And prevaricating, dragging their heels on this, failing to find a chairperson. I'll tell you why they can't find a chairperson, because they can't find a chairperson who's prepared to be nice to Labour. All of this obfuscation, all of these delays by Keir Starmer and his craven cabinet crew are a national disgrace, if you ask me. Your feelings?
Yes, well, it is. And let's just remember that thousands, possibly tens of thousands of mostly girls, but also possibly boys, were raped.
They think, Stephen, sorry to interrupt, they think that the full tally of potential victims could be as many as 250,000. It's extraordinary. And by the way, she says it's still got this rape gang activity is still going on. And we have a situation in London where the mayor, Sadiq Khan, just won't have it. He just says, no, it's not happening in London. There's a lot of evidence that it is, and the victims, like Ellie, say, that's Sadiq Khan. He's doing exactly what the authorities did in Rotherham and Rochdale years ago when they pretended it wasn't happening. So that's what he stands accused of. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, that's fine, but there's an awful video where he attempts to goad Susan Hall, who's the Conservative leader on the London Council, the London Mayoralty, whatever. Well, I don't even know what's technical term is.
At the London Assembly.
There we are, Kev. Thank grateful. But he tries to goad her into saying Pakistani rape gangs, and I really think we as a country. So for a start, something I've mentioned before is that we're not actually racist. We're diverse. And the only people who think we are racist are this tiny group of effectively Fabians, like the Prime Minister, like the Mayor of London, who seem to think that we all live in solely white communities that somehow represent some sort of weird version of the 1950s, like some sort of sci-fi alternative of the past, where we don't integrate, which is absolute nonsense. Now, the largest Muslim community in the world is in Indonesia. So nobody's saying that we have a problem with Indonesian rape gangs. So that, for a start, that there is no logical connection to say that this is in fact a Muslim problem. And we're just going to have to recognize that there are cultures which are incompatible with us. I have Pakistani male friends. I have Pakistani female friends. Absolutely none of them is a danger to kids. So what we need to do is drill down into what's actually going on, expose it and fix it, because these children matter. And what we have is a bunch of completely illogical, frankly, Kev, I'm just going to call them stupid people in charge who think that they know how to run community relations. They don't. Look at all the riots last year. As far as I'm concerned, Keir Starmer started the Southport one, just from his absolute emotional neglect, his pure bollardism, his inability to be a human being and recognise that people might have emotions. You know, they are not good community managers. They don't know best for us. They can't micromanage us. The College of Policing doesn't know what it's doing. In fact, and what is their logic? Is their logic that if we're told that these are Pakistani Muslim men, we're going to go out and what are we going to do? Just pick on Pakistani Muslim men? Why can't we just sit down on the sofa and go, oh well, sounds like we've got a bit of a specific problem. Probably best deal with it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I think they're trying to do. Well, this is what Ellie was telling me earlier, and we'll repeat later. As I say, they're trying to widen the remit, and by so doing, kind of water down the essence of the inquiry. The essence of the inquiry has to be who did this and why.
And how do we fix it?
Yes, exactly. This is about getting justice for the many thousands of poor young victims of the worst sexual scandal in British history. And we have a government that's trying to kick the can down the road, trying to obfuscate, trying to make it vaguer than it should be, so that they don't have to implicate the Islamic community. You know what? Everything this government does is to try to keep the Muslim vote. And they shouldn't be playing politics with this. Playing politics with this is disgusting. So we've had 3 of these girls from the victims panel, including Ellie, who'll talk to us soon, have resigned today, saying this is the same old story. They won't listen to us. They're silencing us. We're going through this all over again, and they won't let us say who did it. Who were the who were the people who did this to us? They don't really want us to say this. So they're playing politics. Jess Phillips, who at one point in her career, her illustrious political career, was renowned for her good work in helping and campaigning for the child victims of sexual abuse. She's kind of ruined her copybook now. So this is what she had to say on behalf of the government today in the House of Commons, giving an update on the euphemistically known grooming gang scandal.
Government remains resolute in delivering Baroness Casey's recommendations following her national audit into group-based child sexual exploitation and abuse. These crimes committed by grooming gangs are among the most horrific imaginable, and her report exposed over a decade of institutional inaction, and we are determined to ensure such failures are never repeated.
She sounded kind of bored with it all, didn't she? This is the Tory response from the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp.
This scandal arose because young, mainly white girls were systematically gang raped, and this was covered up by those in authority because the perpetrators were mainly of Pakistani origin. So it's all the more shocking that when calls for a national inquiry became public in January, the Prime Minister smeared campaigners as jumping on a far-right bandwagon. Comments like that are a disgrace and are what led to this scandal being covered up in the first place. Months later, just 2 days before facing a vote in Parliament, the government finally agreed to the inquiry. But it's clear the government never wanted this inquiry, they were forced into it. Perhaps that is why, months later, the government has said nothing substantive publicly, and their inquiry is descending into chaos.
Stephen, Chris Philp is right, because, as I say, we've had 3 victims, young girls or young women now, who have quit today, saying this inquiry isn't fit for purpose. It's no good. They're changing the remit. They're making it vague. They obviously don't want to focus on who was committing these horrendous crimes. Also, the prospective chair of the National Inquiry into the grooming gangs was Annie Hudson, and she quit today. She too very unhappy with what the government seemed to want to turn this National Inquiry into, which is something that won't focus on Muslim men of Pakistani origin, won't focus on the communities in which these awful crimes unfolded, and will just want to turn it into something that's pretty vague. And all in all, that was a pretty bad phase in British history, wasn't it? Yeah, well, let's hope that doesn't happen again. The other thing I think we need to know, I mean, we all know that all across the north, in particular these towns where this scourge of rape gang horror unfolded, we had senior policemen turning their backs on the issue, turning a blind eye. We had teachers turning a blind eye. We had social workers turning a blind eye. We had local politicians turning a blind eye. These were mostly Labour administrations, hence the Labour government isn't very keen on this inquiry. And what the girls are saying is they're doing it again. They're turning their backs on us. They're ignoring us again. This is a scandal again, isn't it?
Yes, and don't let them hide behind the whole "you're racist" if you notice that this is largely a Pakistani male problem, because the people we're going after now, the criminal justice system, thanks to Suella Braverman, is going after those men as we speak, and rightfully doing so. The inquiry will go after all the people who aren't Pakistani, who turned a blind eye to this. And those people are the people that Labour is trying to protect. All those Labour social workers, all the Labour policemen. One of the proposed chairs supported Yvette Cooper in her leadership bid. You know, this is what they're actually trying to protect. The whole Pakistani issue, which I think we need to admit, but I think we can address. The bigger problem is the authorities who ignored this. I mean, one of the girls who was married at 15 to one of her abusers, and the social worker went to the wedding. Right, I want that.
Oh, I didn't know about that. I mean,
I want that social worker sacked.
That's
okay?
the point.
Is that too hard to get?
Well, I think that social worker and the coppers who turned the blind eye, particularly the coppers, they should face the long arm of the law. They should be arrested. Yes. They should be prosecuted. But what Ellie and the victims who've quit today were also saying that what the Labour government want on these inquiries is they want representatives of the police. They want representatives of the social workers and the teachers and all the people who turned a blind eye to their ordeals. They want them to be on the inquiry. Ellie's saying, no, we don't want them on the inquiry. We don't want anybody making excuses for these people. So there is already, and it hasn't even started, they haven't even got a chair, there is the prospect, I think, I think this government want to turn this inquiry into a whitewash.
Yeah, it's a cover-up. It's just obvious now. And they're just using this distraction technique of Pakistani men because actually the inquiry is going to expose a lot of people of a hell of a lot of ethnicities in our country who simply were willing to throw young working class girls and boys under the bus if it meant that they managed to protect their career. And it's cowardice, it's moral cowardice, and our children have been sacrificed on this altar, and it's not right. And if it were a bunch of Pakistani children that this had happened to, I'd still say that's not right. You know, we as a country, we are a diverse country. We look after everybody. As far as I'm concerned, the most precious thing are our children, all of our children, and we betrayed a group of our children, and that is sick, it is wrong. And this inquiry, if Labour... Well, there shouldn't be a Labour Party if they do this. I can't imagine their forebears would ever have done this. If you went back to 1920 and found some of the founding members of the Labour Party, are you telling me that they would abandon white working class children? Because I don't believe you. And
I'm sorry that Jess Phillips finds the entire issue so dull and boring. She obviously made it clear that she found it very tedious today in the Parliament. I mean, she talk about wrecking her career. She used to have a good name for looking after or caring for the welfare of the victims of sex abuse. That good name is now a bad name. Make no mistake, she's just a government stooge, a government that is playing politics with the fate of as many as 250,000 victims of these vile rape gangs. You shouldn't be playing politics with this, and the fact you are, Starmer, and your cabinet crew, shame on you, shame on you. Stephen, you know, I would say that this story really surprises me or shocks me, but I'm afraid nothing much shocks me anymore in the ongoing insanity of our escalating migrant crisis. This is the story of bathtub baptisms in asylum seeker hotels, that these clerics are touring our asylum seeker hotels all over the country and baptising people from different religions, different countries in their bathtubs, so they can then say they're Christians, and this will help their applications to stay in this country. This is going on quite a lot, apparently. Chris Philp, we just had him on the show. The Shadow Home Secretary said that these baptisms were insanity, and this system needed to be dismantled. If you remember, do you remember that guy, Abdul Azidi, who threw acid in his girlfriend's face, the mother of his kids, and then went on the run? He had converted to Christianity in order to be able to stay in this country. So this is going on. Bathtub baptisms to aid and abet migrants, asylum seeker applications. I would say you couldn't make it up, but it's true. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
It's unbelievable, but it's been unbelievable for a very long time. Even Tony Blair conceded in 2003 that the problem with the immigration system is that they can come here, claim anything, and we effectively can't disprove it. So then he dressed it up, and successive governments dressed it up in sort of faux law, fake law, where, you know, we have some sort of nebulous concept of a hearing, and the judge is supposed to decide everything. You know, no shocker, the judge just decides that everybody should get asylum. Well, slow hand clap that. All of this we gleefully ignored whilst we were making money and the country was fine. We're no longer making money, the country's not fine, and by the way, these people are coming in ridiculous numbers that we simply cannot cope with. And this is why I often think this government and the Fabians, they're almost at war with maths. Okay, it's just maths. Like, maths is an objective truth of the universe. You can't be at war with maths. 2 + 2 = 4. That's it. If you say it equals 5, fine, but your society will collapse. I mean, you can pretend to be at war with maths, but ultimately you will lose. And ultimately, we simply cannot have all these people here. We do not have an asylum system that is in any way able to deal with modern life. Yeah. Most of it was drafted in the 50s, so why would it? I mean, you know,
but bear this in mind, Steve. The reason they're doing this, one of the reasons is it, you know, makes them seem a little bit more, you know, akin to the country they want to live in, Christian country. We're Christians now, but of course they also convert to Christianity, because then part of their application to stay is, well, if you send me back to my Muslim countries, Syria or Somalia or wherever the hell, I will face persecution because I'm a Christian now, and they don't like Christians there. So there's this sect. They're called the Christadelphians. They're a Christian sect that rejects fairly central Christian beliefs such as the Holy Trinity, but they are Christianity. Anyway, there's a section of the Christadelphians called the Care Links Ministry, and it's their ministers that are going around the country doing bathtub baptisms, and they say, well, we'll baptize anyone who wants to convert to Christianity. Well, I think they should be stopped, and also I think that the Home Office should look very, very carefully at any migrant who arrived here and then converted to Christianity, particularly via the mechanism of a bathtub baptism in their asylum seeker hotel. We mustn't let them claim this. We mustn't let them get away with this. It's a con, isn't it?
It's a con. It's also particularly abusive. It strikes me as obvious that they'd pick Christianity because Christianity has become identity politics, you know, lowest tier, and therefore acceptable to discriminate against. I mean, just to put all my cards on the table, my family will be attending our local church on Sunday morning, you know, but I'm Anglican, so we don't normally talk about our faith. That's not what we do. But, you know, the Christianity has just become a kicking boy of the left, and it's because they are atheists and they don't really respect religion, which is their choice, but obviously rude. This is obviously mocking, and it's particularly pervasive. It needs to stop. But we need an entirely different immigration system. The whole system can't work now. I mean, I'm also publicly bisexual, and young men who come here and claim to be gay just so they can't be deported and yet end up with a number of wives. I mean, they're not all bi. It's just nonsense. We've built a system capable of abuse. We ignored it while the abuse was really low key. So it was a few thousand a year. Now it's so big we can't ignore maths.
Yeah. So there's a guy called Duncan Heister. He's one of these ministers from, what are they called again? the Christadelphia or something. He's one of the ministers from Care Links Ministries. So he goes around doing these bathtub baptisms, and he says, this is extraordinary, when the Telegraph approached him, he said, do you do the bathtub baptisms in asylum seeker hotels? He said, I do. But that's not the main thrust of what I do. I'm not interested in getting involved in the debate of, are these people sincere, or are they just doing it to get leave to remain, that sort of thing. Neither I nor Care Links represent asylum seekers at tribunals, nor have I ever attended such tribunals. I simply baptise anyone who wishes to be baptised. So he's not interested in whether or not these people are sincere. If they ask him, he just does it.
Yeah, so
what's wrong with that picture? Quite a lot, I would suggest.
Well, it paints the lie of the idea that a judge considering this is in any way a mechanism that protects the nation. Because the most important thing he said there, to my mind as a barrister, is he doesn't attend court. Okay? Yeah. So he's never questioned. Right. But the guy claiming asylum will say, this guy came to me, he baptized me, I am now a Christian. Imagine you're the judge. You're sat there, you're on your own completely. You know, you don't want an asylum seeker kicking off in front of you. You've got no economic incentive to not grant asylum. By the way, you might be denied a promotion if you're seen as anti-DEI. I think that's another factor we have to take into account. But even an honest judge in that instance is like, well, I have no evidence before me to show that he wasn't baptized or that he isn't Christian. The man who baptized him is not coming today, so I can't ask him questions. Nobody's going to ask him questions. This is not a legal process. These are not courts.
Yeah.
These immigration, it's just an immigration sham. It's like, it's court theatre. But it's not real.
Yeah, it's presided over by Guardian readers. Absolutely ridiculous. Let's talk, Stephen, about COP30. That unfolds, I think, in a couple of weeks, very soon. We estimate that Britain will be taking at least 450 delegates, flying them all the way across 9,000 miles to northern Brazil, including, of course, net zero nutter crazy Ed Miliband, and, of course, Never Hear Keir, who cannot ever resist getting onto an aeroplane, so he'll be there as well. I'm just going to read the Prime Minister's statement on this. Well, this is a spokesperson for Number 10. The Prime Minister will attend the COP30 Climate Summit in Belém, Brazil next month because net zero is the economic opportunity of the 21st century. No, it's not. One that has the potential to reignite our industrial heartlands, create good jobs for the future and lower bills in the long term. But as we know, not in the short term, because they keep going up. So that's why he says he's going. Now, we did some maths on this a few weeks ago. I think you might have joined us for it. That the COP30 gravy train, 450 delegates will cost us taxpayers £4 to £5 million by the time we pay for their first class, business class air travel and their hotels and all their meals and their expenses. So that'll cost us the best part of £5 million. In terms of the carbon footprint, as they fly across the world, damaging the planet in order to discuss saving the planet, their carbon footprint will be the equivalent of driving a petrol car for 4,800,000 miles, or flying to Paris and back 23,000 times. The hypocrisy of this event is off the scale. It's on another level. Apart from the fact our contingent will all turn up first class, business class and all that, to use the 4-lane highway that's been specially constructed, destroying acres and acres of the rainforest so that the delegates can get from the airport in Belém to the conference centre. Apart from all of that, they will destroy the planet. They will lay down a carbon footprint like no other. So private jets, first class air travel, business travel, 70,000 people, 70,000 hypocrites from around the world will descend on Belém in Brazil for what I call a carnival of grotesque hypocrisy. It's the most sickening spectacle of the year, isn't it? Every year.
Yes. And worse than that, because I mean, I'm not a hippie, but and I don't believe in the climate con, but I do still care about the environment, and I particularly, I might surprise you, Kev, but I do actually get quite emotional about trees. I feel like that there's a beech tree near me, and I'm quite fond of the beech tree. I don't mean in any sort of weird way, but you know, I feel emotionally connected to these things. I think we're part of the environment. We are animals.
Can I tell you a quick story about a tree? It's sort of apropos of nothing, but I know what you mean. So in my old house where I used to live, Belsize Park in London, just across the road, and I used to sit there, my sort of office study thing was upstairs. So I used to sit like looking at this kind of tree next to a house, a big old beech tree, I think it was. And I was sitting there one afternoon, and apropos of nothing, the damn thing fell down. It just went and crashed. So I think that tree had probably been there a couple of 100 years, 300 years. And I watched the end of it. A very strange sight. You don't often see that. But if you think about it, I'm just telling that story. I don't know why, but I think you get it. If you think about it, we have destroyed that little event that I saw will have been repeated, I mean, probably millions of times over in the Amazon jungle, where they destroyed acres and acres, thousands of acres of rainforest, so the delegates for this planet-saving conference could get from the airport to the conference centre. It's disgusting, isn't it?
It is disgusting. It's grotesque, and they've laid down, tons of concrete and cement and tarmac to build this massive road that nobody will ever use again. And I mean, when a tree falls like that, a young tree can sprout up. They can come back. I was in charge of governing some woodlands locally because I was a parish councillor, and it was our wood. And we let the trees that fell stay fallen. We let them rot. We let the new trees come up. That's part of the the cycle
of life. Yeah.
But this is just grotesque. This is human narcissism on an epic scale. And really, I'm always reminded of the phrase that the devil shows his cards too early. He plays his hand too soon. And these people, they've had 30 cops. What have they achieved? Okay, 30 of them.
Nothing. No.
What have you achieved? Exactly. So they're just rubbing our noses in it. They're pointing out their grotesque self-consumption. This is a bit like Versailles before the French Revolution. I'm sorry, mates, but no, not one of you is respectable. Not one of you cares about the environment. Obviously, CO2 is not a threat to the planet, or you wouldn't do all of this. Oh, and by the way, Kev, they never point out that allowing in immigration and migrants means that our CO2 output increases. They never say that, do they? They never say that it's against our net zero target to allow migrants in.
Well, but these, absolutely. And these cops, they never achieve anything. The whole thing is, as I say, think about it, 70,000 people flying in from all over the world. The carbon footprint, the damage to the environment, just from this event alone, is immense. And once they've destroyed the planets on their private jets and their first-class flights and their limousines through the Amazon jungle on the specially constructed highway so they can avoid the traffic of Belen, once they've done all that, they sit around talking about how they're going to save the planet. I mean, it's almost bizarre. It's grotesque. It's obscene. Who do they think they're kidding?
I think that this is a dictatorship of weak men. And I think what they have to... There's a difference. So dictatorships by strong men... I'm not in favour of any dictatorship, just to be very clear. But dictatorship by strong men actually is more stable as a form of government. Because dictatorship by weak men has to constantly remind you that they're important. They're so needy that they have to constantly sort of, stab you or just nick you with a finger to say, I'm still here, I'm still desperately important. And I mean, basically that's what COP is. It's this declaration that these weak, rather pathetic, I mean, our Prime Minister is a deeply unimpressive individual, Mad Ed is a deeply unimpressive individual, and they've got to remind us that they're still here, they're still important, mummy. I really did achieve it all. And you can see why weak dictatorship falls to a strong one. I'd rather we restore democracy, and a proper democracy would just look at this and go, this is a waste of taxpayers' money.
Yeah, and as I say, the Prime Minister saying, this is the economic opportunity of the 21st century, one that has the potential to reignite our industrial heartlands, create good jobs for the future, and here's the doozy, lower bills in the long term. They were saying when they came into power, it will lower bills, will save you £300 in the first year. And actually what happened was our bills went up by £300, and they continue to go up because that idiot Miliband is an incoherent fool whose policies, whose statements just do not stack up. We are being conned. Net zero is a massive con, and it's costing us a fortune. We need a Donald Trump to come and get rid of it all. Or we need someone like Donald Trump. Who could we think of? Oh, I don't know. Maybe Nigel Farage. You never know. Stephen, this book comes out today. It's Virginia Giuffre's posthumous autobiography. It's called Nobody's Girl. It's very harrowing. This poor woman was abused throughout her life, 3 times, she says, by Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew denies that, of course. I'm not sure anyone believes him. He's now a proven liar. We know he lied about cutting Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted paedophile, out of his life. He lied to Emily Maitlis about this. So when he lies or when he insists he did not sexually abuse Virginia Roberts, as she was then, very young girl, 17 years old, on 3 different continents. If he expects me to believe him, he's got another thing coming. If he expects millions of people to believe him, he's got another thing coming. Frankly, I just don't believe him. This book will make his position even more difficult. It really was. Talks about how aggressive he was sexually, how he is obsessed with her feet. I won't go into any more sordid details. But I'll be talking to the royal author Andrew Lowney later in the show about this and indeed his book, which was the sensational entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York, which really set the ball rolling on the final downfall of the dreadful Prince Andrew and his awful wife Fergie. So that's later. But I want to ask you, this emerged today. I mean, first of all, I think that there should be an act of Parliament to remove this title, the Duke of York, from this guy. The King, I think, just doesn't really want that to go through Parliament. He doesn't want to drag the royal family's name through the House of Commons, as it were. He wants it just to settle down. I think that we, the people, should demand an act of Parliament to strip this dreadful person of all of his titles. I think we should also strip him of the right to call himself Prince. But what I wanted to ask you is, well, the King wants to kick him out of Royal Lodge, this obscene, huge mansion that he lives in all on his own, sometimes with Fergie. He hasn't paid rent on it for 2 decades, more than 2 decades. He paid a £1 million lease for the lease and a further £7.5 million for refurbishments in 2003. Since then, he's only been required to pay 1 peppercorn amount a year, and I quote, if demanded. So it looks like he's living there completely free. Apparently his lease is watertight. But since the King persuaded him to give up his titles, he should persuade him to move out of this massive mansion, shouldn't he?
Well, so I've seen that some lawyers are commenting on the lease in the press, and the first thing I just wanted to point out, Kev, is whatever anybody thinks about me, I don't shoot from the hip, and I would need to see the lease before I talked about what was or wasn't in the lease. What I would highlight is that 22 years ago, Tony Blair's government was in charge. So if this is a really bad deal, and it works out, by the way, I've done some back of the packet maths, and just so your listeners and viewers are aware, I always like to point out that lawyers are the bright children who can't do maths, so do assume my maths is wrong.
Journalists are like that too.
It's just a mystery.
Except in my case, not particularly bright, but I can't do maths either. But sorry, carry on, Stephen.
I think it works out to £32,000 a month rent if you take the 8.5 and spread it over 22 years. But obviously, if we spread it over another 50 years, it's going to be a really pathetic rent. Yeah. So Tony Blair, and by the way, the Royals don't do anything without number 10. And so Tony Blair would have been in charge of this. This is his government. There is absolutely no way that there won't be a memo released somewhere under the Official Secrets Act whenever the day comes saying I approve TB.
Okay. Listen, so I'm with you on the rent. Do you agree with me that I think the people of this country, and apparently it's like 80% of people want this to happen. The King, I think, I bow to no man in my admiration for our monarch and all that, although I think he's a weak man and I can't stand his net zero claptrap. But I think he just wants to sort of sweep this under the carpet. Look, he's given up, he's said he won't use the titles, let's leave it at that. I think the people should say to the King, no, we are in charge here, and we are going to officially take these titles away from this excuse of a man. We are going to put an Act of Parliament through the House of Commons and strip him of his titles. I think that's what the people want. I think that's what we should do.
Well, despite looking like a cavalier, Kev, I am a very muscular Democrat and a roundhead. Yeah. So I'm very happy with that. Real power does lie with Parliament. We allowed the King's mother to govern these affairs privately as a matter of respect for one of our longest serving and, in my view, best monarchs ever.
Oh, yeah.
The current king will want to be allowed to deal with this himself. He'll call this, if he talks to Keir, who we know is weak, he'll say, this is a family matter. I should be able to run my family. But do you know what? That family is a public institution. It's not a family. Yeah. It's part of our constitution. And you're quite right that the ultimate regulator of it is Parliament. It is Parliament which gets rid of kings or queens if and when necessary.
Yeah, but by extension, Parliament, by extension, this is power to the people. We'll decide what we do with Andrew, Your Majesty, not you. We need to talk about the Met Police, former Met Police detective Mike Neville. Welcome, Mike.
Yeah, good evening, Kevin.
Let's do this quickly because, frankly, it doesn't deserve much discussion. It's ridiculous. The Met Chief, Sir Mark Rowley, having basically been humiliated by the Graham Linehan saga, the nonsense of sending, I know he didn't do it directly himself, but he presided it over. The buck stops with him. He shouldn't. He should be telling his various local police chiefs, don't send 5 armed officers, coppers, to Heathrow Airport to arrest a guy for historic, alleged nasty tweets. That case fell apart at the seams today, and the Met Police Chief, Sir Mark Rowley, said, in the light of this, we will no longer be investigating non-crime hate incidents. Hallelujah. It's good sense at last. Why on earth did the police ever record non-crime hate incidents? If it's not a crime, what the hell has it got to do with the police? However, we're not going to investigate them anymore. You think, well, that's good. So people like Alison Pearson, well, that was the Essex police, but the Telegraph columnist, if they live in London, they won't have coppers knocking on their doors saying, bit of a problematical tweet you posted 9 months ago. There'll be no more of that nonsense, that nonsensical claptrap. That's over. However, so you think, oh, well done, Mark. And then, but we will carry on recording non-hate crime incidents. Well, if you're not going to investigate them, what the hell are you recording them for? This is ridiculous.
Well, absolutely, Kevin. And you're talking about 13,000 of these across the UK during each year. And that's how many hours of police time is that taking up, where the officer could be on patrol, could be investigating a burglary or robbery, and he could take real strict action here. He could say, if it's that serious, if it's some intelligence that could be useful, then an inspector has to authorise that it's ever recorded in the first place. Because, of course, the police record, if somebody's got a suspicious car, it's not a crime. There may be a 1 or 2 occasions when they might have to record something, but if it's an inspector has to make that decision and put their name to it, then it would never happen. But this is ridiculous. What we see here is if the police had solved every single crime, if 99% of thefts and burglaries, robberies and rapes were solved, perhaps the police could, focus on people being rude to each other. But at the moment, 1% of thefts are solved, 5% of burglaries are solved. That's what the public should be focusing on. Even Keir Starmer's telling us the same, that the police should focus on real crime. So it must be a strange thing that me, you and Keir Starmer actually agree with something. It's quite amazing. It's probably a first in this occasion.
But, people like Mark Rowley and other police chiefs, they should see the light here. They should see the sense of it. When she was Home Secretary a couple of years back, 2-3 years ago, Suella Braverman instructed police forces to stop recording non-crime hate incidents. But they ignored them because they apparently rather like this activity. As you said, I think they're down to... is it 30,000 over the past year? But previously they were recording as many as 60,000 on them. That's a lot of work. For what? And now Rowley says, well, we won't be investigating these anymore. Well, stop wasting your time. Stop wasting taxpayers' money. This is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, but what you've got to imagine, Kevin, it's in their DNA. Nearly every police chief is a sort of Guardian reader, that sort of stereotypical left-winger who actually believes in this stuff. And I've always said, if you went to Scotland Yard and you said to the top 40 officers, write down on a piece of paper how many robbers, burglars and thieves you personally arrested ever, there'd be a lot of embarrassed faces, because for years senior police officers have not been promoted on their crime busting or crime prevention. They've been promoted on political correctness. You know, I saw a leaflet from Wiltshire Police, bizarrely. Now, 2 inspectors in there. Now, in times past, it would have a detective inspector who said, oh, I solved a top murder case, or I arrested the Novichok suspects, and there would have been a uniformed inspector who described how he'd kept the community safe and he'd caught some burglars. In this case, both of the inspectors had been on the diversity unit. That's the criteria for promotion. It's madness. And they're not reading the room, Kevin. They still don't realise the public want the police to just keep them safe, stop bothering about what politics we've got, what rude remarks we send between each other. Just keep the robbers, rapists, murderers and thieves away from our towns and cities, and particularly keep them out of our houses.
And stop patrolling the tweets and start patrolling the streets. Simple as that. When are they going to learn? When is Rowley going to learn? When is that idiot who runs that Essex Constabulary? When are they going to learn? There's no point in pursuing people for 9-month-old tweets. In fact, there's no point in pursuing people for tweets whatsoever. This isn't solving any kind of a crime problem. This is just nonsense. This is just Soviet activity, checking on people for no apparent reason. It's got to stop.
But the trouble is, all it does as well is exacerbates the people's belief that there is two-tier policing, because it's often used as a tactic by left-wing activists to target somebody. It might be Graham Lenehan, it might be me, it might be you, it might be somebody else. So they actually use these things to get people dragged into police stations, embarrass them and silence them. And what it does, it says to the public, is that the police are not on your side. And that is absolutely tragic, Kevin. The British police have been seen for decades as the best in the world, and they've lost that image, and it's tragic. I always say this, I was proud to be a Scotland Yard detective. What does it mean now? At one time it used to mean being part of the top crime busting agency in the world. Now people checking up on tweets and looking at Facebook to see who's made a rude remark. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely.
Now what are they doing? Sending 5 armed officers, armed coppers, to Heathrow Airport to arrest a man, and not even a British citizen, by the way, an Irishman flying in from America for tweets that he posted several months ago about the trans community. Mark Rowley should have a look at himself in the mirror and think, what on earth am I doing? What on earth are my coppers doing? This is beyond ridiculous. So it's good that they're not going to investigate non-crime hate incidents anymore, but the fact they're still going to record them, I think it's a scandal, to be honest with you.
Talk to Chloe Dobbs, one of my all-round favourite people. She's also a political commentator at that, very popular on this channel. She's been leading the sort of charge for the removal of the Oxford Union president-elect. I think you guys will remember him. His name is George Abronier, and he's the person who sort of straight away put in the group chat, Charlie Kirk got shot, let's go. I mean, he's a really disgusting individual, and he's kind of at the heart of all this horrible, horrible sort of liberalism that Oxford has been captured by, but in a very, very dark and insidious way. Chloe, I want to bring you in to talk about this. Thank you for coming on the show.
No worries. Thank you for the impressive intro.
Well, you're an impressive lady. I mean, talk to me about this. What's been going on? So George has had a vote of no confidence, which I was quite frankly surprised by.
Yeah, so we had the vote of no confidence, and it took a very long time to get the result. It was absolute havoc in there. I have a friend who's an ex-returning officer who was inside that count, and he said it was the most hectic one that he has ever seen. And he's been at counts for over like the past decade, and many of them. And it went on. The polls closed at 8 p.m. on Saturday, and we only found out the news yesterday morning. You had 1,000 proxy votes and 800 and something votes in person. And proxy votes, most union elections votes are in person, because in a typical union election, a termly election, it's only really the students at the university at the time that really care about it and want to vote. But quite rightly, there were many Life members all across the country who desperately wanted to vote in this, because this was a national, or well, international scandal. We even had Americans like Elon Musk and Ted Cruz getting involved, tweeting about it.
Yeah, it's a really bad look for our country, isn't it? I mean, a university that used to supply us with some of the finest minds. Now this is who they kind of let in.
I know this is absolutely shocking that this man was even let into the university, let alone able to rise to the position of Oxford Union president. But anyway, so they decided, the extraordinary returning officer decided to allow proxy votes, and you had people running around like headless chickens at the Thursday night debate before the vote, telling everybody that proxy votes are racist, and the only reason they've allowed proxy votes is so that they can remove a black man from power, because of course all of us are life members. We're a bunch of evil, racist, far-right bigots. In their opinion, they've consequently now moved another motion of no confidence in the current president, Musa Haraj. That vote is going to take place tomorrow, so no doubt there'll be another long count, on the basis that they're blaming Musa, claiming he's the one that allowed the proxy votes, even though it's the extraordinary returning officer that decided that, on the basis that he's a racist, even though the guy is a Pakistani, he's a man of colour himself. So, I mean, it's typical activist student politics. It's crazy. And in that count where they had 1,000 proxy votes to go through, what we heard was that the count reps representing Georgia's team were causing absolute havoc, intimidating the returning officer, heckling him, every single one of those proxy votes, trying to find a reason why it's invalid, and hence it was chaos. They suspended the count at one point. There were arguments being made by Georgia's team that the count was illegal and it needed to just be stopped and thrown out for a later date. They tried to just get rid of it. There had to be phone calls made to lawyers, but we finally got a result, and he lost pretty.
Hallelujah.
1,228 votes to get rid of him versus 501 to keep him. So quite a clear result, and you would think that he would accept that, being about 70% of the vote to get rid of him. But no, he is in denial. He's throwing a tantrum, saying, I'm still the president, and of course he's appealed it, which now means we'll have to have a tribunal panel convened to go for... I mean, it just never ends.
This is reminding me of like the current Labour government. We always look at Oxford as a sort of microcosm for what Westminster could be in the future.
Well,
this
you
is
know
making me very depressed.
Christian Nemitz, who you may have heard of from the IEA, he tweeted in response to all of this madness, saying, just a warning, this is what Westminster will look like if you have the Green Party and the Zara Sultana Party running the show. We've already had a taste of that with the whole hoo-ha of who's running the party, Jeremy Corbyn or Zara Sultana, and all that
yeah,
chaos.
you're right. And it's also, I mean, this is the same man who wants to cry racism, but he got very, very low grades. Was it an A and 2 Bs to get into Oxford?
Yes.
I mean, that's absolutely unheard of. It used to be 3 A stars that you had to get into that prestigious university. I mean, he really shouldn't be blaming it on that. I think it's all about his intellect and nothing about the colour of his skin, and also the way that he reacted to a father of 2 being shot in the neck and subsequently killed. That could also be a bit of an issue, and then how he doubled down on it. He's just a terrible person. It's genuinely nothing to do with that. I mean, I can see you shaking your head or nodding.
Nodding in agreement with both of you. Nodding in agreement with absolutely both of you. But what
Pete's here, by the way, Chloe.
Hi, Chloe. Nice to see you. What's really important in this story is the reflex to blaming race. That automatic kind of, it's because he's a black guy. You've done this because he's that. It is not the fact that the guy who is supposed to lead one of the most prestigious debating organisations in the world celebrated the death of a free speech activist. You know, it is not the words that he used that is the problem. It's the body he represents. That's what's really important about why he was not fit for that role. You know, we can talk about his academic references and all the rest of it, but he was not fit to have that position of such importance to free speech in the world for him to behave in that way. And Chloe, what you're describing there is going to be Westminster. It already is, to be honest. I mean, I'd spent most of my time there, and I'm 34 and look like this. It is absolutely astonishing, the parallels between what you're describing and just every day in Westminster now, because it is committee after committee after committee. It's extraordinary vote. It's this person did that. It is the student union on speed. It is astronomical, but it just doesn't surprise me. That's the sad thing about it. it.
Well, you seem like a total rarity, Chloe, because honestly, when I think about even the last couple of weeks, we had that terrible Oxford student who had workshopped a chant. You know, I laugh because if I didn't laugh, I would cry, about putting the Jews in the ground, death to all Jews. They then subsequently found firearms in his family home. I mean, is this the type of student that Oxford is producing? Did you experience it while you were there?
Yes, there's a lot of this craziness going on at Oxford, and it is really sad because I think that the Oxford admission system is actually very good in that the way that they interview people, they are looking for people who have brilliant critical thinking skills, who can engage with different and controversial ideas in a thoughtful and nuanced way. But what happens is that you get these smart kids come in, and then a bunch of them get captured by these activist student societies, who then seem to throw all of that out the window, at least whilst they're outside of their tutorials, and they just revert back to crying racism and fascism whenever someone says something that they disagree with. And a few people are able to ruin it for the rest of the students, because you just need a few people who you know will cancel you and launch a tirade against you and try to have you banned from every student society and have you put in every single student paper and called a racist if you say something slightly controversial. And the reason why that is so hard for university students is these are people who are about to apply for jobs. They are looking for graduate jobs, and they are terrified of the prospect of having a bad Google search with their name. And that's why you have people like George that think that because they're a person of colour, they can get away with anything, because if they call someone racist and they get an article in them in the paper that says they're racist, that they will never get a job. But unluckily for George, I'm not scared of that. I get called a racist every day in this job, and I'm self-employed, so I'm not applying for some job in finance. So I'm quite happy to attack him. And there are many old alumni who have been very vocal.
But you're not a racist, Chloe.
I know I'm not a racist.
Yeah, that's the funniest part.
This is a very common tactic in the student politics. Is we will try to call anyone a racist. You've also seen in the Oxford Union several cases of people making fake sexual assault and rape allegations in order to win an election against them. That can ruin someone's life and completely ruin their career.
Can I chime
and they
in
will
on this
do
point?
that just for power in the union, and that is vile.
Could I just chime in on this, because there's a really important case of Alexander Rogers, the 20-year-old who was at Corpus Christi, and he took his life because of the cancel culture on the university campus. He was ostracised, he was bullied, Chloe's exactly right. You know, his name was run through the university press. There is no standards there really of right of reply or any of that, and he took his own life because of it. This is a real cancer that is in the heart of our universities, and more importantly, it's in one of the top universities in the world. These people are going out all over the world to the top of our society. They're becoming our politicians, our lawyers, our corporate directors. That is why this stuff has to be rooted out so firmly in the universities.
And it circles all back around. Racist, fascist. Who did they call that? Charlie Kirk. They called. They said that was who he was, and that then led to some very, very violent death cult type extremism from at least what we know from someone who was quite left leaning. So this is the power of those words when you just bandy them about to anyone that you disagree with. And I think that the Charlie Kirk murder really, really showed what can be done when you sort of throw those insults away like that. Chloe, thank you so much for joining me on the show tonight. And I really appreciate. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep getting called, whatever. You know you're not. 0344 499 1000. What do you think of that? Should George have been removed? What do you think about our educational institutions? Are they all captured by left-leaning ideology? Is that going to be a problem for us in 20 years when these people start running organisations like Pete said? I
Look
think
at the courts. The courts are your prime example. The reason
Don't
we have
get me started.
we have
goodness.
so many lefty judges right now is because of the captured academy. So we're living through the first generation, the first wave, if you like, of this kind of infected woke society. This is the point. It's backed up and it's backed up and it's backed up. So you can get rid of it in the law, but unless you get rid of it in the culture, it's always going to be around. And that's why taking back control of the universities is beyond important.
Well, we're fighting back against it here at Talk.
Here we are, finally. Hello, Ali Ross. This is the funniest column of the week. It's Ali Ross's TV column in The Sun, brilliantly written. I recommend it every Friday in The Sun. And by an extraordinary coincidence, guess who my next guest is? It's Isabel Oakeshott. No, it's Ali Ross. Hello, Ali. How are you doing?
Good morning, Kevin. I just thought that was a spontaneous tribute to me there, and there was nothing to do with me actually being the next guest.
Yeah, it was spontaneous. So then they told me while I was paying tribute to you that you were waiting to come on the show. So what a happy coincidence, as I say. Now, let's first of all talk. I'm sorry, I'm a bit upset today, Ali, as you can imagine, because the dynamic duo, the dazzling duo, Claudia Winkleman and Tess Daly, are leaving Strictly Come Dancing. I think... is it after 21 years or something like that? Anyway, after a long, long time. I gather Tess Daly, she's moving on to Panorama, is that right? And, of course, Claudia will carry on with Traitors, the Celebrity Traitors or whatever the hell it is. So what does that mean, though, them leaving Strictly? Are they leaving the sinking ship? They are, aren't they?
Well, it's got that feeling about it. I was watching daytime telly yesterday. I won't name the person responsible, but he said it's like a JFK moment, isn't it? You'll just remember where you were. Steady on, mate.
JFK. In the future, everyone will remember exactly where they were when they learned that Claudia Winkleman and Tess Daly were leaving Strictly Come Dancing. But are the dazzling duo, they're deserting the sinking ship, aren't they?
Well, the graph is certainly pointing down now for the show. Celebrity Traitors is, ironically, with Claudia in charge of that, has put it in sharp focus that it's just no longer top dog at the BBC, as it has been for years. And there was such an arrogance about the show as well, and it thought it could do without decent bookings. And you can see where that's led it this year. It's just a flat experience watching it. It feels like it goes on far too long. And you can accuse I'm a Celebrity of many things, but Nigel Farage on a couple of years ago, it always tries. It understands the importance of the contestants, and Strictly just really fancied itself. It thought it didn't have to try. And I think time has caught up with it. It just feels stale, and these two are probably getting out while the going is still reasonably good. Although, as you say, I don't think Newsnight's going to be knocking on Tess's door.
Exactly right. Well, on the off chance that anybody's remotely interested, who do you think might replace Tess and Claude?
Well, I've seen, of all people, Mel and Sue suddenly being.
Oh my God!
If you want to finish that show off, that's the appointment you should make. I'm sure it will be incredibly diverse, equal and inclusive when they come to. But I've written just an aside because of the day it broke. I couldn't write too much about it, but it said if you want to take it in a different direction and actually make it funny, because Strictly's never made the most of the fact it can be really funny. Get Graham Norton to do it, because he's far more talented than any of the names that have been mentioned in the betting.
I've got an idea. How about this? Because the BBC would like this.
You're putting yourself forward here, Kevin.
Yeah. I'm a natural for it. I've always loved Strictly, so I'm a natural for it. I think Claire Bording and Gary Lineker as a double act. What do you think?
Well, if you want to kill it off, that would probably work quicker than Mel and Sue or some of the other names. I don't know if I could bring myself to watch it, even in a professional capacity, if those two were in charge.
Talking about, you know, I've said this to you before, being a former TV critic, not in your league, of course, Ali, but one of my great joys in life now is not having to watch TV. And
out there, Kev?
My wife has started to watch Celebrity Traitors, so I've watched about 3 minutes, and already I hate it with a passion. I just it's just torture. But of course it's very, very popular. Let's talk about your column today, every Friday. You are zoning in on a woke jokes on The Last Leg, that dreadful woke comedy show, alleged comedy show on Channel 4. The normally very funny Frank Skinner is in your sights. Tell me the crime that Frank has. I mean, I think he's a funny guy, but
Frank Skinner is a funny guy. Otherwise, I wouldn't have dwelt on his weird road to Damascus conversion to wokery. But he was on last week, and whether it's the surroundings or he genuinely has changed and is no longer considering comedy as a career, I don't know. But he suddenly went into this rant about how spitting image was wrong to turn Paddington Bear into a coke-snorting South American gangster, because it's just wrong, because he's such a positive image of a migrant.
Of a migrant.
Yeah. I'd been to the pub, so I watched it again the next morning just to make sure that I wasn't seeing things. This was the same Frank Skinner that was, I think I've called him the godfather of laddism there, but is now pulling up the drawbridge for anyone else to make.
Well, I think he's been infected by being around those losers, Josh Widdicombe, Alex Brooker, Adam Hills on the dreadful Last Leg. I mean, their wokery is obviously infectious, and poor old Frank's caught it.
Yeah, it's a real echo chamber, that, Stuart. You get a round of applause. You say anything left-wing, they'll go nuts for it. I think you would struggle in that environment, to be honest, Kevin.
Yeah. Well, you'd be no slouch yourself. I think you and I
would not.
Yeah, look, we should start our own left-wing comedy show, Kev and Ali. I think it'll work.